So it's been exactly 1 month since I switched from the iPhone 14 Pro Max to the Galaxy S23 Ultra, and I can say it's been one of the best decisions that I have made for many reasons. And in this video, I'm going to break it down for anyone that wants to switch from one phone to the other. So let's get started. Now, my time with the S23 Ultra hasn't exactly been smooth because I am still very much in the Apple ecosystem, and switching from an Android phone, while it's been great, it's kind of messed up my productivity. Because for one, I write all my scripts on my laptop and I import all my footage from my camera on my phone and I airdrop it to my laptop for editing and many more. So it just basically has made my life a tad bit easier. Regardless, the S23 Ultra has given me something that Apple and the iPhone hasn't exactly given me in a while, and that is satisfaction. Now, some people are going to wonder what I even mean by satisfaction in the first place, and for one, we can start this up from the very beginning, and that is the design. Now, the S23 Ultra, while it's the same design as the S22 Ultra, there is just something about this lavender color that makes me want to bring it out without a case and into the world, because a lot of people are going to look at this and be jealous of the phone that I have. Secondly, the rounded corners are so good, it makes holding the phone a lot more satisfying, even though it's slightly the same size as the 14 Pro Max. Now, I think the S23 Ultra is much more comfortable to hold, and it does not give me any hand fatigue when I'm holding the phone for too long. I mean, it has fallen on my face once or twice, and trust me, that is not really a great experience. But I can say that the design has been way better for me on the S23 Ultra than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. It also has the volume button and the power button on the right side of the phone, and if you already know me and this channel, you already know that that is my preferred method when I want to buy a phone. It just makes navigating a lot easier for me, and it's just a personal preference. Now, at the bottom, you have a USB-C port and stereo speakers that are honestly one of the best speakers on any smartphone in 2023, and right beside it, we have the S Pen. Now, I don't really want to go into much detail about the S Pen because I have said it many times in the last 3 videos about this phone. The S Pen is not for me, and I don't see any use for it. Another reason that made me want to pick up the S23 Ultra more than the iPhone 14 Pro Max was the display. Now, as we all know, Samsung are the kings of displays, and without a doubt, they did not disappoint on the Galaxy S23 Ultra. Now, getting the similarities out of the way, they both have an L2PO panel that allows for great battery management, and on paper, there are 2 things that one has over the other. Now, the first is the S23 Ultra having a QHD Plus display, and the second is the brightness. The 14 Pro Max has a max brightness of 2000 nits to the S23 Ultra's 1750 nits. Now, while it's higher, I noticed when watching videos on YouTube, Netflix, or even Amazon Prime, the S23 Ultra appeared brighter and sustained that brightness for a longer period than the 14 Pro Max. That is not a big deal to some, but personally, I would go for a phone that makes my life a tad bit easier. Now, if I had to choose one to consume content on, it would definitely be the S23 Ultra, because for one, it does not even have the ugly dynamic island that is very intrusive. Now, some may argue you notice it less, which is true to be fair, but the S23 Ultra just gives me a cleaner look. The only thing I can say I missed on the iPhone, since we're talking about displays, is Face ID. It is honestly one of the best ways to unlock your phone, because it is honestly the fastest and the most seamless way. And if you have a mask or even you wear glasses, it works. Sometimes. While the S23 Ultra does have some sort of face unlock or Face ID, it does not even come close to the iPhone, because for one, the technology is not even the same. You're better off just using the inbuilt fingerprint scanner on the S23 Ultra, which is more secure than Face ID if we're being honest. I personally feel the S23 Ultra has a better display and a resolution than the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and that just gives me more, if that makes sense. Now, battery life has also been interesting. Now, for the better part of the last 4 to 5 years, Apple and the iPhones have always gotten the battery champ or the battery king title, but there is a new king in town. Now, most Android phones have decent to okay battery life, but this is very different. I have averaged 7 to 10 hours of screen on time daily, and have tried as much as possible to kill this phone. Now, for context, I have my brightness on 100% all the time. I use Google Maps while listening to music. I've had a few calls and used the S Pen to actually use or scribble some things and recorded a few videos. Now, I have put this phone through its paces, and I am really impressed with its optimization. Now, I'm not even saying the iPhone battery is bad or anything. You will definitely get good battery life, probably a day or a day and a half, maybe 2 days max, depending on your usage. However, when you really think about it and the amount of features the S23 Ultra has, then you already know the battery is quite impressive, and it's the reason why I keep carrying this phone every single day. When it comes to software, it is a gift and a curse because both of them give me exactly what I'm looking for when it comes to my productivity. However, the S23 Ultra just has more. Let me explain. Now, the iPhone 14 Pro has an A16 Bionic chip, while the S23 Ultra has the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip for Galaxy, which is a custom chip. Now, we all know this is great because in the past we've only gotten Exynos in Europe, while Snapdragon is given in North America, which was pretty hard to pinpoint the actual performance. Now, speaking of performance, it's been great. There aren't any issues that I can think of right now, and both can handle gaming like first-person shooters like Apex or Call of Duty at the highest frame rates. That being said, an iPhone does not just give me much to work with. I find myself using the S23 Ultra more in terms of my productivity. Now, I know Apple created the dynamic island for multitasking purposes, but it does not do enough for me to warrant a permanent spot at the top of my display. I've said this before, but the dynamic island feels like it's Apple's way of solving a hardware issue with software. Now, when you think of multitasking, for one, it's like having two apps open at the same time, or you have floating notifications, or using the S Pen as a shutter button when you're taking pictures with a group of friends. Hell, just a simple thing as swiping left or swiping right to go back is essential as a standalone phone, and these are just the things Apple just cannot do at the moment. However, with other Apple devices, the iPhone becomes a very powerful tool when paired with your laptop or paired with AirPods or even your Apple Watch. Now, the ecosystem comes alive and delivers a seamless workflow that is hard for most people to get out of. Hence why it was kind of hard to get out of, when I switched phones. Anyway, now when we look at the back of the phone, we have the cameras, which are a totally different story entirely. The S23 Ultra has a crazy lineup this year, which is 4 cameras, but that main wide-angle lens is the main focus, which is 200 megapixels. Now compare that to the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which has a 48 megapixel wide-angle lens, and you think that this is a mismatch, but we already know megapixels do not tell the full story. Now, from a user perspective, you will get great shots with both these phones, and when I tested them out, they gave good color accuracy and vibrancy in good lighting conditions. Although it's something I've said before, the selfie camera on the iPhone makes my skin noticeably darker for some weird reason, and it's become a concern, and I've had my sister message me, I've had a friend who's a photographer also asking me if there's a way to bypass it, and I'm not really sure what Apple is doing, but they need to take a cue from Google and Real Tone. The S23 Ultra, on the other hand, brightens up everything, which isn't exactly my true to life tone, but I kind of prefer this to what the iPhone 14 Pro Max was giving me. Now, where the S23 Ultra shines the most is with its telephoto lens and that 100x zoom. Mwah. Whereas the iPhone only gets as far as 15x. 100x is kind of wild, but it gives users tools for astrophotography if that is your thing. But either way, I wouldn't really worry about it too much as this feature isn't going to be used on a daily basis. Now, video on the other hand is no contest. Now, video on the S23 Ultra shoots in 8K and is a massive improvement to the S22 Ultra. Now, even though the iPhone shoots in 4K, I still prefer the clarity and the color balance to the S23 Ultra, which means it is still the best video camera on any smartphone at the moment. My time with the S23 Ultra has probably been the best experience that I have had with any smartphone in a very long time. It is honestly one of the best decisions that I have made, and I don't see myself switching to any other phone for now. Maybe till the Fold 5 or Pixel 8 or the iPhone 15, I don't really know. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked what you saw and it gave you any value, make sure you like this video and consider subscribing to the channel. My name is KJOS, and I will catch you guys in the next one where we talk all things tech.